What is going on, everyone? Jonathan here with the Venue RX podcast, and I am so excited about today's guest. We are going to learn a lot in this podcast and in this time we have together. But I first wanted to mention something to you all. This podcast is something that we do for fun. The guests who come on here, they're not being paid or anything like that, and I truly feel like it's a value exchange. So if myself and the guests that I have on today, who I'm so excited to interview, if we do a good job, give us a share the show, and tell your friends about us and spread the word about the educational content that we're putting out here for you. And, if we don't share it. It's a good value exchange just like that. So just wanted to put that in there all for you. And now we are going to get into today's podcast guest. Today's guest is Heidi Thompson, and she runs an incredible business for business owners in the wedding and event space. Heidi, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited about our conversation. We, got this scheduled, and in the process, you have been a very busy woman. Is that correct? You are doing business summits and doing all this stuff. And I mean, just a look at your social media, and you are so busy. How did you get involved in the wedding and event industry in the first place?
Ooh, okay. The short condensed version, I discovered the event space when I was in college. I started working for some nonprofits doing events, loved it. And then I found the wedding industry. I started working for a wedding planner, loved that, but realized what I actually loved was the marketing to get people to the fundraisers of these events. So, I'm going on my merry way, working in marketing, always keeping an eye on the wedding industry. And when I was living in the UK, I noticed there was this gap in the market where what people wanted was very like offbeat bride, rock and roll bride. And what they were getting in the wedding media and the wedding shows was like white, fluffy Cinderella. So I started a wedding fair over there to bring together couples who wanted something different and vendors who were doing things differently. And I found I was spending a ton of my time helping those exhibitors get the best return on investment they could. And it really just kind of smacked me in the face at that point that not everybody just, reads marketing books because they like psychology and they're just into it.
Awesome. So you sound like a crazy person, just like me.
Yeah.
Bunch of books, and you get really jazzed and excited about finding new ways to communicate to people and, tell that story about what you're doing. That is so cool. I love that. When you talk to business owners, the business owners that you work with, because you have a consulting business now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk to business owners in our space, do you feel like there is some hesitancy to invest in marketing or invest in, kind of telling their story and getting out there beyond just maybe putting some posts on Instagram? Or do you find people are pretty open?
I find a mixed bag. It really depends where the person is in their business journey, where they are in their mindset. A lot of people start off with this idea that they have to just do everything themselves and that it's just as simple as like throwing a couple Instagram posts out there and everything will just work itself out. But when people get past that and really realize like, oh no, there's a lot more to this, I find that they are more willing to invest in their education, to improve on it, which is my sweet spot, or to really move into delegating things in their business that they don't really need to be spending their time on.
I'm so glad you mentioned delegating, because that's really what I want to talk to you about today. I was actually listening to one of your podcasts, and you've got an incredible podcast. You talk to so many industry experts, and it's a total wealth of information. But you had this one specific podcast that I was enjoying listening to about how you put on these events, the virtual events, correct?
Yeah.
How you put on these events without completely losing your mind. And looking at the speaker lineup that you have for this most recent summit that's coming up here at the end of February, you have so many speakers. How do you keep everything straight? And let's really get into that and talk about how does someone delegate, grow their business without completely pulling all of their hair out?
So the way I started doing these events, I'd always kind of wanted to do something like this, but It was the whole idea of starting from scratch that made my head want to explode. And I happened to come across someone who had done this really successfully, was able to like wrap up their system into a program and like, here you go. I'll walk you through the whole thing. Here's everything you need. So big piece of advice. If there's a shortcut, buy the shortcut. It has saved me so many hours, days, weeks, and made me so much more than trying to reinvent the wheel. Whereas if someone's figured something out, like, okay, I just want to do it your way, then I don't need to completely reinvent things. I might tweak things for sure, but I don't have to just make the whole thing up from scratch. So not starting from scratch was a big piece of it, as well as systems and processes, which are boring, but I think are awesome because they save you a ton of time, and just delegating from the outset. So I'm small. It's me. It's a virtual assistant. It's my husband who also works on the back end of the business. So I am still doing a large chunk of, I'd say the majority of this, but we have it down to a point where everyone knows what they need to do. We're like duplicating the project in ClickUp, just running the same project, running the same processes, just being able to say, hey, can we change this to this time around? Or, hey, let's try doing more video posts instead of graphic posts on Instagram, like little things, that you change. But the fact that the process just has been run over and over and over, and I refuse to reinvent the wheel, has just made it infinitely easier every time I do it.
So you're saying for someone who is, let's say, getting into this industry, brand new, try to help yourself by finding a mentor, finding a coach, finding someone you can kind of track with, maybe even buying some templates or some coaching so that you don't have to, learn everything kind of with the dummy tax. Is that kind of what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah. And like the way I think of it is like a lot of us treat, our businesses like the Oregon Trail, when really you could just like get on a plane. It's a million times easier to just take what has been learned by everybody that has come before you, figure out, okay, what parts of that work for you, and then just put it into place. Why are you, going in a covered wagon across the Rocky Mountains when you can get on a flight for like $200?
So true. When you mentioned ClickUp, what is ClickUp?
ClickUp is my project management tool. So it's very similar to like Asana or something like that, but it's where I manage all of my projects that I have. One big one is the summit. I have my podcast in there. So I can see for myself, the other people that I work with can see, okay, where are we at with this podcast? Did the intro get recorded? Has that already been uploaded? Everything is just all in one place. All the tasks and projects are being tracked.
Got it. So this sounds like it's a key element to your success in being able to do all these different things because you can track it. I'm hearing that correctly?
Yeah, I try not to keep things in my brain like for storage. There's a quote, it's attributed to Einstein, so it's probably not actually Einstein, but that your brain is best used for solving problems, thinking, not remembering things. So I don't want to remember how far I got into writing email 3 that's going out to promote the summit when I can have a tool do that for me.
Got it. So I feel like just even from my own experience running businesses, it's so easy to rely on your own brain, your own memory, and you can do that for a little bit.
Yeah.
But then, you get to a point in your business where your business grows enough and all of a sudden, instead of remembering 5 things, you're remembering 25 things, and you start to lose stuff and fall through on, commitments that you've made and maybe even start over promising and under delivering, right?
It's so easy to do.
When you talk with business owners and even when you put on summits like this, what is the reaction that you find, from the audience, from the people who are listening to these different experts? Because you're curating basically experts all throughout the industry. Is that correct?
Yeah, I find a lot of excitement. That's every single time excitement. I find, and a big thing for me side tangent, we don't realize the things we're really good at. So you have to pay attention to what people tell you over and over again. And something people have always told me is you're very good at taking something very complex and making it very easy to understand and take action on. That's exactly what I do, in my membership with my clients. It's exactly what we do in the summit. They're all really focused on really getting you to understand what you need to understand and then go take action on it. You don't need to know everything there is to know about Facebook ads or starting a team to start taking the first steps. And that's what we really want people to do, is take action. And my favorite thing during each of these summits is when I see people actually doing it and getting results right during the summit. It is the greatest thing to see.
That is so cool. And you said right during the summer. So this is a multi-day event. So you're saying some of the folks who are in there are just taking, a bit of the advice and they are immediately applying it to their business and starting to see results right away.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Wow. Heidi, when you think about our industry and all the different educational tools there are out there now, I think, I've talked to people, educators in the past, and it was like, there wasn't really the podcasts as much, 5-10 years ago. And there weren't really all the YouTube channels and the different places that we can come to as wedding pros to get advice and get guidance on whatever area of problem that we're having in the business. What do you think helps someone take action? Because that's what you were just mentioning, right? Like, what's the difference between someone just listening and filling their mind with all this incredible information, whether it's on your podcast, on the summit, even someplace like Wedding MBA, right? That we were just talking about before we got on. How can people actually get stuff done, not just consume all the information and feel like, yay, we made it, but then nothing actually changes in their business?
This comes up in my membership, the Wedding Business Collective, a lot. And I love drilling down on this with people. And it's, let's take this big thing that you want to do, that you want to implement, that you want to accomplish, and let's break it down into tasks. Because what often happens is we're putting goals on our to-do list, and it's no wonder we can't take action on them, because how do you possibly take action on something like book 50 clients? I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with that. But if I know that today I need to write and schedule 5 Instagram posts, okay, I can do that. I can sit down and complete that, and I don't feel overwhelmed. So I think a lot of it comes from clarity. What am I even supposed to be doing to get to this goal? And that really comes from, okay, we got to break it down. Something we do in my membership is 90-day planning. We create 90-day plans together, and we have a call every quarter to review those and plan for the next 90 days. And you see this just fog lift from people when they realize, oh, wow, I know exactly what I need to do 2 Tuesdays from now. This is awesome. I feel so clear on exactly the actions I need to take. Whereas most of the time when we're ingesting content, we're so focused on the big picture, we don't take the time to break it down into steps that we can actually do.
Got it. Do you, let's actually go in a very practical sense here. Let's say it's something like, we know that we need to start posting on Pinterest because Pinterest is a search engine, and, Pinterest is a place that we can really go to get a lot of marketing value. But I have no idea about Pinterest, right? How would you go about breaking it down instead of putting that goal on the list of market on Pinterest, right?
Yeah.
How does someone practically take that, dissect it, and then make progress, especially in the super distracted world that we live in, where notifications are going on the phone, there's fires to put out in the business, maybe even stuff at home with kids and pets and things like that. What are some practical steps that people can do to just start breaking down a big goal like that?
I don't think people take learning as a thing that they are like going to do to take a step towards something. Because if someone was like, okay, in 90 days, I want to be up and running with a killer Pinterest strategy, I would say you should spend your first 30 days figuring out who you need to learn from, who is getting results, what do they have to offer, and working your way, either if it's coaching, working with them, if it's a course, work your way through that course piece by piece. And then deciding after that, okay, what are my next steps? Okay, I need to implement what I learned in module 1 to get this thing set up. And then I need to implement this next thing. I think we skip the learning part and feel like we're supposed to just know how to do this stuff. But finding someone to learn from and actually going and digesting that information and turning it into a plan is a really, really big part of that.
I hear you talking a lot about the person themselves doing it, right? We're talking about, me in the example, on Pinterest, right? Would you counsel people to do it themselves and kind of spend that time learning it? Or would you spend that time hiring somebody to do it for you? Because I know there's kind of two schools of thought on that.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of delegation. If that's what you want to do and that's what you have the bandwidth to do, I say do it. I think you need to understand the thing that you're delegating enough to be able to tell if the person you're hiring is the right fit. This happens a lot with people who will hire like an ad agency or people hire an SEO agency, and they don't know the first thing about it. So this SEO agency can tell them that like you need to adjust like the unicorn parameters on your website. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll pay you to do that.
Just because they don't have the background.
Right. Yeah.
Got
So
it.
I think just figuring out the basics of, what it is you want to learn and vetting the people that you want to delegate something to or that you want to hire. Of course, asking people who they've worked with and had a good experience with, asking for testimonials, asking for case studies, I think are all really, really important because you need to know that you can trust them. And just because someone says that they can do SEO or do Pinterest, does that actually equate to results in the way that you're thinking of them?
Got it. And speaking of results, when you are working with a client, one of your own clients, for example, do you find that there are certain clients that it's easier to adopt change with? And I don't want to pick on any specific industries here, but like the differences between DJs and wedding planners and venues. Do you tend to find yourself working more closely with a specific kind of subcategory of our industry?
I get pretty big mix. I think that everyone that I attract tends to have the same sort of mindset that they want to figure out what works and they're sick of, fiddling with things and just trying to, struggle their way through. I've actually I've had experiences with people in pretty much every, vertical of our industry where their mindset was just in a place that like, no, I just say, hi, I'm in business and people are supposed to come give me business. And I think it's more about the mindset that you hold and whose responsibility your success is than any particular vendor type.
Got it. So really coming to either work with you or other people, or even listening to a summit or any sort of education with the right mindset. So you mentioned mindset, but what is that mindset? Because as CEOs of our own business, it's so easy to feel overwhelmed and kind of get off track. What mindset do we need to have to really be in a place where we're ready to learn?
So the mindset that I love people to come to me in is just open. Like, I'm open, walk me through what you're going to walk me through. I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to ask for clarification on how I can apply this to my particular situation, how I can make this work. I'm going to ask for help when I need it. A lot of people do not ask for help when they need it. And I am the first one with, my members to be like, guys, I'm right here. Just if you need me, please ask. And a lot of people will just struggle in silence, and just suffer and feel like that's part of it. And I think part of the mindset that you need to get into as a CEO is that's not supposed to be how it is, but we accept it in our industry. We accept it in a lot of creative industries that I'm just going to struggle. I'm just going to work, and not have much to show for it. And that's just the way it is. And it's like very defeatist.
When someone has that type of attitude, that definitely, you're right, is defeatist, but it's also pretty sad and maybe takes away some of the fun and some of the joy out of what you're passionate about, which is probably your craft, right? Like, whether it's designing and planning a beautiful event, or if it's, creating a beautiful, entertaining experience for people. When you help people think about their mindset and kind of adjust this over, and maybe even some of these people are in your membership, right? Where they're learning and you're like, hey guys, I can help you. How do you help them get to that place where they're not feeling like, I'm just going to struggle? How do they feel? How do they end up feeling like, wow, I see progress being made? We're focused on kind of the next thing ahead always. And it's so hard to look back. So how do you help people get that perspective that they need to actually realize the progress they've made?
So I do a couple of things in my membership. I have a roadmap, and this is your path. This is how you go through everything. This is what you'll work through. I'm also really big on encouraging people to share their accomplishments, their wins, as I call them, whether that's in our group or on our mastermind calls. I don't care if they're big or small. I want you to acknowledge them because it forces you to realize that you did something, that you actually did a thing that you were supposed to do, and you actually got a result from it. And the other thing I find to be really inspiring for people is to not just know in their head that it's possible for them to have, a business that doesn't drive them into the ground, but to actually see it, to see other members who are like, hey, I just hired this person, or I just shaved this much time off of my week. Then all of a sudden it becomes so much more attainable because that person, they're just like you, and you can see that, okay, well, if they're doing it, I can do it too. And I think that belief, even that it is possible in this industry, is a huge, huge component.
For me personally, I can relate to that because it does feel discouraging sometimes, whether back when I started my first podcast, it wasn't this one, but it was the one before, you kind of look at people who've gone ahead, and it's so easy to only look at the kind of the marquee podcasters, the Joe Rogans and and it's kind of like, in one sense, you're thinking, what do I have to offer the space? But then you see other people who are just starting their podcast or their, course or their whatever it happens to be. And they're brave and they're bold and they're getting it done. And it's like, okay, like they can do it. I can do it too.
I think so much is like adjusting your expectations. Like I was talking to a member the other day, she's been in business for about 2 years. And she was asking, like, when did it get to a point in your business where you're like, oh, I just know these things are going to work? And I was like, it doesn't. You get better at knowing, okay, this has a better chance of working, but it's never guaranteed. And I think knowing that even people who have been doing this forever are like, I don't know, sometimes my marketing blows up in my face. It's like, okay, so that's allowed.
That's okay. The marketing that blew up in your face doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means that that's part of the journey.
Yep, exactly.
Got it. I have a question for you, Heidi. As someone who does podcasts, what is a question that you like to ask other people to help understand a little bit more about how they serve their audience? I'm kind of putting you on the spot here because
I like it.
We didn't talk about this at all, but you've interviewed a lot of great people, and you have great conversations with them, and I'm fascinated kind of your mindset behind going into some of these interviews.
I really like to ask people what they nerd out on, because usually there's a facet that they just love and they just could talk about for hours, or like, what pisses you off about the industry? And that can just set some people like, how many hours you got? Now we're going to talk about what this is and what needs to change. And yeah, I think those two questions are really good at opening people up of like, well, I actually really love doing this for people, or I really love showing people how this particular thing is possible, or I love moving us away from this particular thing. I am very much one of those people that I can more quickly, this might make me sound just very negative. I can more quickly tell you the things I hate about something, the things I like about something, but I know that helps guide me.
Mhm.
I know that I hate this. I know that I hate that people are working 60, 80, 100-hour weeks. And that really drives the things that I do. So that's like the underlying motivation. And I love getting to people's underlying like area of nerdery of where they're just like, no, I just really want to talk about this all day long.
Nerdery. The word of the podcast is nerdery. I like that a lot. I want to ask you about the overworking thing that you just mentioned. But before we get to that, what is something that you've changed your mind on in the process of having your podcast and running this business where you're working with business owners in our industry?
Oh my God, there's so many things. It's always changing and growing. I've definitely changed my mind on when I first started my membership. I had it more in like a choose your own adventure kind of setup. And I realized that what people were really coming to me for was a roadmap. They were coming to me with like, give me the map, like, give me the path, show me where to go. That has definitely changed. With the podcast, I used to do almost entirely interview-based podcasts, and now I alternate them because I'm the expert in my business. That's a big part of why I'm running a podcast, is to talk about these things. And that has definitely helped me a lot. It's helped people get to know me better. It's helped people get to know how I can help them, the things I'm really passionate about. And it's helped people connect more to me so that when they do decide that they want to come work with me, they always say like they feel like they already know me.
Got it. Because you've been able to almost brand yourself through some of those. And you're talking about solo podcasts, solo content where you're kind of putting out more of a topical thing, kind of like that wedding business or the wedding summit one. It was like episode 203 or something like that. You guys, if you're listening or you're watching online, you're going to have to go check out Heidi's podcast. But I want to wrap up today, Heidi, with a conversation around this overworking. And I know it's something you said you're passionate about just now, but it's something that comes up repeatedly, in the work and the content that you put out on social media. And then also it's, kind of in your tagline, like you help business owners, get out of this state of overworking. And, you're able to help them make six figures. And when you think about someone who is maybe working too much, they're overworking, they feel overworked, they feel like they're out of control in their business. What are some of the root causes that you discover for this overwork? They're not hitting six figures maybe, and they're working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, and they're feeling just like their hair is on fire. What are some of the root causes that some of this comes from?
So we have this ethos, we have this belief in our society that hard work equals success, which is bullshit, because if everyone that worked hard was successful, a lot of people earning not that much money would be very, very successful. So we know it's not just hard work, but that is so ingrained into our heads that we just work for the sake of working. We just do things for the sake of filling our days. And when you actually get really critical about, okay, how am I spending my time? What am I doing? Which of these tasks are actually resulting in something? It's usually a very, very small percent. And you're spending like 80% of your day just doing stuff that doesn't actually get you anywhere. So something we talk about a lot in my membership, anytime we talk about like planning and what am I going to do? So I always ask people what they're going to keep doing, but I love asking people what they're going to stop doing, because we act like crazy people at a buffet and we just pile things on and pile things on. And now it's like, well, I want to eat this. This is a mess. I don't want anything to do with this. But what you can do is take things off of your plate and strategically choose, okay, I'm going to focus on these 2 things. I'm going to focus on these 3 things that I'm going to do to attract the right clients to me for the next quarter. And then I'll assess and see, do I need to change something that I'm doing? Do I need to adjust? Do I need to stop doing it altogether if it's just not working? But the root of it comes in of just a lack of intentionality. We don't know what drives results for it because we've never stopped to look, because we've never been focused truly on results. We've been focused on working hard.
I love that because, and I've been guilty of this too. Like,
same.
It's like this hustle culture. And I think you see people who are in this space, like, I don't know if you follow Gary Vaynerchuk, but, it's like this whole mentality of like hustle, 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 and that certainly has some merit to it, like the hard work portion, because there is a portion of it that is difficult, but that doesn't mean that you should just not absent-mindedly, but like without intention. The lack of intentionality, I think, is important. Just grind, just for the sake of grinding and expect to get somewhere. That's really, really insightful. And also, I like that part that you mentioned about asking people what they are going to stop doing. I actually have been doing there's a program called 75 Hard, which is like this like workout / mental toughness program, basically. And it's interesting because part of it is you have to do 2 45-minute workouts every day. And one of them has to be outside. And if you would have asked me before starting this, if I had 2 45-minute chunks in my day, I would have told you, absolutely not, Heidi, you are crazy. You're out of your mind. I don't have an hour and a half. Like, no, I don't. And yet over the past 30 days, I've found that time. And it has me thinking, I'm like, man, what else do I need to stop doing to fit in the things that I actually want to do? And I love that you go through that with your clients. That's incredible. That's really empowering. How soon do you find that people, once they implement this, how soon do they start seeing a result or like a payoff in this new way of thinking about things?
I mean, if you instantly stop doing the things that aren't driving any of your results, like the next day, absolutely. Because then you're going into your day with, well, these 3 things are the things that drive my results. I'm going to do these 3 things. And then when I'm done with those, I'm either done for the day or I can take on something else. But at least you get the choice at that point. And it's not just like working to work and you get to the end of the day and you're like, what happened? I don't even know what I did.
Well, coming from somebody who I have 4 kids going on 5, I am right there. Sometimes I look up in my day, even when I'm trying to be intentional, and I'm just like, what actually happened today? Like,
and it's never perfect. Yeah, I should say it is never perfect. You will always come off the rails, but it's just getting yourself back on, realizing that, okay, tomorrow I'm going to start my day. I'm going to write down these 2 or 3 things that are really, really important for me to get done. And I'm going to work on those. And when I get distracted, not if, when I get distracted, I'm just going to guide myself back. And that muscle just becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And you're able to catch yourself, when you're distracted for 30 seconds as opposed to 30 minutes.
I like that. And you said 30 seconds versus 30 minutes. It feels like, scrolling endlessly through Instagram Reels or TikTok or Snapchat, if people are still on that. I don't know. I feel like I
feel like I missed that boat. I'm an older millennial. That just went way past me.
Yep. Same for the most part there. Well, Heidi, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with us your wisdom about this and just how people can pull themselves out of their business a little bit more and really be analytical and intentional. I think you've given us a lot of really good action points. I would love for you to tell everyone, I know this episode is probably going to be released after the summit is over, but talk to us a little bit and share what these summits are that you do. Because I love the concept and I think it's really neat.
Yeah, so I host two different summits, and one is called Book More Wedding Summit, where we really focus on helping you attract more of your ideal client and book them. The other is the one that is coming up at the end of February, which is Wedding Business CEO Summit, where we really focus on helping you streamline your business, get out of overwhelm, and create a business that's more profitable, but without having you have to work all the time. So, with those kind of two categories, we bring in all sorts of incredible speakers to cover a huge range of topics. And every single time I learn a ton, like selfishly, I love just listening to the other speakers' presentations because there is so much knowledge and wisdom. And like I said at the beginning, if you don't have to learn these lessons firsthand, if you can learn them from someone else, it's just going to shortcut your growth and really help you.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Heidi, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We're going to leave links to everywhere that you can find Heidi on social media and on our website in the description of the YouTube video, and then also in the description of the Spotify and Apple, iTunes, and everywhere else you can go check her out. But Heidi, if there's one preferred way that you have for people to reach out to you, what would that be?
Probably Instagram. Yeah, people can find me. I'm Evolve Your Wedding Business on Instagram. Feel free to send me a DM. I am an open book and I'm happy to chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Heidi, for coming on the show today. And I look forward to checking out your summits in the future, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks so much for having me.